Welcome to the Kidlit Club with Sally Rippon and Adrian Beck.
Welcome to another episode of the Kidlit Club with Sally Rippon.
And Adrian Beck.
Yes, it's great to be here with you and chatting. And on today's show, the
Lots
good
of good
books,
things.
lots of good things. We've got a
Yep.
segment called The Good Books, which we love. We're also going to be highlighting Oliver Pomervan in a certain way,
Yep.
who is a great author, kids author. So we're going to be talking about him briefly. And also Davina.
Yes, one of my favourite writers.
Davina
Just a
Bell.
star.
Yeah, she's
Yep.
a star. She put out All the Ways to be Smart late last year and went through the
Gangbusters.
roof. So
Absolutely.
Sally's
Everyone
going to be
loves
catching up with her, which will be
Yeah.
great.
I always love chatting with Davina.
Yeah,
Such a lovely person.
great. Now, I wanted to talk to you briefly, Sally, because I think we need an intervention.
Goodness, I'm scared.
Because, Sally, you have been juggling so much lately. You've had many, many different manuscripts you've got to get in. You've got a tour coming up. The juggle is real for you and for all authors. How do you fit in all the work that you do, and do you have any tips for authors or aspiring authors? Like, how does it all work?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I would say a lot of the juggle comes with other things that are part of your life that aren't just about the writing or the books. And so either people are juggling parenting or full-time jobs.
Or new puppies named Billy?
Who's super well behaved now. Yeah. So I think it's just about being really, really organised. And I find I have a very different headspace when I'm creating and writing, or when I'm out in the world doing school talks or promotional stuff, tours, that kind of thing. So I really try to keep them separate. So I
Yep.
try to block out a whole period of time for writing, and I actually go away. I've got a little space in the country. I know, it's very, very lovely. So that keeps them separate because it means that I can go into that really introverted, introspective, dreamy space of creation and then turn it all on when I have to.
Yes.
Which is quite a different way of being. And I think we often chat, you and I, Adrian, about how a lot of writers are quite introverted, and we have to learn, I guess, how to be in the world and
Yep.
and do that. It doesn't come naturally to everybody.
Would you class yourself, broadly speaking, as an introvert?
Yeah,
Yes.
extroverted introvert, or an introvert who likes people.
Okay. And so when you're writing, you're really drawing upon that introverted side of yourself.
Yep.
And then when you're, I suppose, you're doing your promotional things and all that sort of stuff,
Yeah,
different side of your brain?
absolutely. And one of the things that I'm hoping to keep on doing with the Rippon Report is actually getting a chance to talk to people who don't find this comfortable, because it isn't comfortable for everybody to do this.
Yes.
And not everybody's comfortable on social media.
Yes.
Not everybody's comfortable in front of a camera. So I'm really keen to meet people who create beautiful work, but maybe it'll go a little bit under the radar because this isn't something that is necessarily an easy place for them
Yeah.
to be. But having said that, when you do a lot of this stuff, it does eat into your writing time. So that's kind of where we're going with this. It's about the juggle of organising, writing, and being out in the world and promoting what you do. And it also not being icky. I think you've got to find that thing where it's you in the world,
Yep.
but without the, hey, look at me again.
Yeah, that's right. Sally Rippon again, everyone. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's a fine line.
It's a tricky one.
How about you? Because you juggle a full-time job.
Yes.
You're a very hands-on parent.
Yes.
You've got one little one still at home, one in school.
Yep.
And you're trying to get your writing done. So how do you do it?
I pretty much wait till everyone goes to bed, and then I write. I would write most nights from about 9:30, 10ish till about 1. And I have to make sure that, because I've only got limited time to do that, I have to make sure that I'm not wasting any time. So you know how that people talk about being pantsers or plotters?
Yeah.
So they either plot their books or
Right.
they write by the seat of their pants.
Yeah.
I'm a plotter, 100%, because I just don't have the time to go down, dead end streets and have to find my way back. I need to
Yeah.
know that I'm using my time wisely.
Yeah. So when you plot, is that something you are able to do when you're doing your day job, like thinking about plot points of ideas and jotting
sometimes.
them down? And then when you sit at your desk and you
Yep.
go into your creative space, that's when you fill it all out?
My iPhone is full of little notes that I've written to
Great.
myself.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
I have notebooks. I'm old school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
No,
cool.
I'm trying to get off my phone. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm way too much on my phone.
Yeah, okay. Well, I use my phone as a notepad basically,
Yeah,
and
great.
I've got hundreds of notes, and
Yeah.
I just get it down. And I think also sometimes when you get it down, get the idea down,
Yeah.
that frees up your brain
True.
so that you you'll actually still remember it, but you've told yourself that I've written it down, so I don't need to remember it. And then you've taken the pressure off and you remember it anyway sometimes.
It's like clearing up space on your hard drive, so you can put other stuff in there.
That's exactly right. So the juggle is tough, but it's worth it in the end.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't think of anything. I mean, every day I feel so lucky that I'm doing what I want to do. I mean, I made books at school as a kid. I never dreamed I'd be doing this for a living. So yeah, it's definitely worth it.
Great.
And you have to love it, otherwise you wouldn't do it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the intervention is over. Sally, you've talked me round. I think you're going to be okay. I've got a feeling. Okay, now it's time for this.
The good books.
And this time around on the Good Books, we're going to be talking about school holiday workshops. School holidays are upon us.
Yep.
And there's a lot of opportunities for kids to meet authors, and authors will do workshops with those kids. And we just wanted to give a bit of a shout out to all the authors and say, you know, we know it's a very, very difficult time of year.
Yeah.
But they give up their time to chat with kids and help kids and inspire kids with their writing.
Yeah.
And we think if you can, as a parent, if you can support these programs, I think it's a great thing.
It's really good. And, you know, we're all, if we've got kids ourselves, we're all juggling what to do with our kids over the holidays. So while I'm going to your workshop, I'll chuck my kids in another
Exactly. It's like a babysitting service. It's perfect.
Yeah. So a lot of bookstores run them. I know
Yes.
Little Book Room, Younger Son as well. And so a lot of authors will visit schools during term time, and that's often a really great way not only to publicise their books but also to subsidise their living, because it's very tricky to make a living just doing art in Australia, any form of art. But a lot of the holiday ones are people turning up to bookstores, sometimes to promote their books, but sometimes just really to create that community environment that children's bookstores specialise in. So a lot of them are donating their time over those periods and having to find babysitters for their own kids.
That's true. That's true. And I think the Children's Bookshop in Sydney does a great job with that too.
They have fantastic stuff.
Exactly. There's a bunch of all different bookstores right around the country that would be holding workshops. So yeah,
let us know actually.
Yeah.
Write us,
say where you've been.
Tell us your favourite children's bookstores. Who does good workshops?
Yeah. And which authors have been doing the workshops that your kids have really, because the kids get a lot out of it. I mean, they see these names come to life in front of them, and they learn a lot of stuff. And they get inspired to write their own creative work as well, which is great.
I think as a child, it would have been an amazing experience for me. I don't think I ever met an author until I became one, but I was always keen on writing and drawing. And if I think I turned up to a bookstore and there was a real live author there, particularly one whose books I may have read already, but not necessarily so, would have blown my tiny mind.
Yes.
Completely.
Yeah, that would have been great. I'm sure it's great for the kids that come along. So get involved in that if you can. Okay, now it's time for a little bit of fun with
Social Media Watch.
a quickie but a goodie this week in Social Media Watch. In fact, I've got a bone to pick with Oliver Pomavan. Oliver, every time I check into Instagram, what do I see? Burgers.
I know, it makes me so hungry.
You're so hungry.
Trying to work on your book, and we shouldn't be on Instagram anyway when we're trying to work, right?
No, well, never. That would never happen. But you're just trying to, do the right thing, eat the right stuff, and then you turn on Instagram innocently thinking, I wonder what Oliver's up to. He's probably writing another award-winning novel.
Yep.
And then it's a burger right there in your face.
Yep.
A juicy, magnificent, mouth-watering burger.
Not a salad.
No salad.
No salad to be seen.
I don't think he's ever eaten a salad. Oliver Pomavan posts burgers almost every single day. So if you're out there and you're wondering, who should I follow? Who should I follow on social media? And I could learn a bit about writing and kids' books and the craft of literature. And you follow Oliver Pomavan and you get burgers in your face. Burger after burger after burger.
It's pretty funny.
It is very funny, but it makes me so hungry. Oliver, don't change. I do like what you're doing. It is funny.
Yeah.
And in fact, last year, Felice Arena and I went up to Sydney and we had a burger with Matt Cosgrove and Jules Faber and a couple of others, and we actually saw Oliver in action.
I think I saw that on Instagram. Yep.
Eating a burger, and he's a connoisseur. In fact, what I would suggest you do, if you do like burgers yourself, on the comments in Oliver's Instagram, just say, hey, what are your favourite burgers? Can you give me top 5? Something like that. Just like, I'm going to Perth. Oliver, I'm going to Perth. Yep. Can you recommend me 3 spots, 3 burger joints? Yep. That's what I'm going to be doing from now on, and I urge everyone to do that. And actually, you know the funny thing about Oliver is,
no,
I heard him talk about what his favourite burger ever was.
What?
And it's not quite what you'd expect it to be.
Oh. Is it going to turn my stomach?
No, I don't think it's that bad. It's the Golden Arches.
No way.
It is.
No way.
It is.
Oh,
Can you
I'm not
believe
sure how I
that?
feel about that. Is that actually a burger?
It's incredible. I think a friend of ours, Nat Amor, was interviewing him and found that out. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm really not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah. So, Oliver, we have questions, but yeah, do check out all these amazing burgers. Perhaps, maybe have lunch first, so you're not tempted just to rush out and
go to the Golden Arches.
That's right. But it is a lot of fun. And that's it. We're not talking about burgers anymore because we're probably making everyone really hungry.
Yep.
And it's time for this.
Our special guest.
Special guest time, Davina Bell. On this episode. Now, you've known Davina for quite a while, Sally.
I have. We have a really lovely history together because when Penguin were publishing the Our Australian Girl series, they did a shout out to a whole lot of authors who could pitch an era and to put together a character, and Davina and Jane Godwin were the co-producers of the series, I guess the publishers. And that was the first time I met Davina when I was working on that series, and she was my editor.
And then what was it, the young girl, what was the name of your series?
Mine was Lena. So Lena from 1956 Carlton, Italian migrant family.
Yes.
And it was such a joy to work with Jane and Davina in that way. But ever since then, Davina and my paths have crossed in so many ways. So she was in a writing class that I was involved in the Faber Academy. We swap work. She reads my work, I read her work. I have such high regard for what she does because she's worked on both sides of the desk. So she knows how to create ideas and stories and write, but she also knows how to edit and publish. So she's, just everything you would want in someone that would read your work. And so, she's fantastic.
She's a bit of a legend. Yeah. Let's check her out. Here she is with Sally.
Davina Bell, one of my favourite people, one of my favourite authors, and who publishes a really wide range of books, from picture books through to a young adult novel coming out very soon. I think we're allowed to say that.
You are, yeah.
Middle grade novels and series as well as one-off, and so, but also works in the publishing industry. So I wonder if maybe the first thing I'd really love to know is, how do you balance all that? Because is it two brains that you have to work with when you're working with someone else on their work, and when you're doing your own work? Do they help or hinder each other?
That is a really good question. I would say a bit of both, little from column A, little from column B. I think you can never understand as an author what it's like to be edited until you are edited. So I think it's made me a much more empathetic editor to have been edited by other people. And I think as an author, you never understand how busy an editor actually is. So I feel like those are the insights that I've taken from both parts of my life. But in terms of being a writer, I am probably extra critical because I read so much of writing from people sending in submissions that isn't always as of good quality, because you might be aware of this, Sally, that a lot of people believe they could really write a picture book in an afternoon.
So easy.
Very easy. Writing for children is so easy. And I'm always worried, am I as bad as those people sending me their manuscripts in off the street? So I think I've got an extra critical brain, but at the same time, because I'm trying to do both, and they're both a lot of work, it is actually good for me because it means I have less time to sit around and freak out about my own writing, because I'm always on a deadline. So in some ways it helps.
Okay. And I think the other thing is that I know when I first started out as a writer and I knew nothing about the publishing industry, there was a little bit of a feeling of us and them, you know, the creator works really, really hard and the publisher just wants to make money from you. Do you find, being able to have one foot in both camps, that you have a much more empathy for what both roles entail? And I think it would be good for some of the writers out there to know some of the difficult decisions editors have to make as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I really do believe that you can't understand as a writer that an editor is so invested in your work. They spend so long living with it and trying to make it happen and imagining it as a physical object and trying to make all the costs work to bring that to life. And that takes so much time and passion and energy that they can never be as invested as the writer, but really it comes close. So when it doesn't work out, or you can't get something across the line at an acquisitions meeting, or you publish it and it doesn't sell, it's really heartbreaking for an editor as well. Absolutely.
So you take that quite personally, having worked on a book?
Definitely, and also because I feel a responsibility to the author to make their work into a success, especially if it's something I really believe in as well. And then it's really disheartening to see things that are maybe more commercial and less beautifully written succeed, where you think something really beautifully written that didn't have as much commercial appeal just fades into the distance.
Yeah, and there's always, every time you go online or every time you do a course, everyone always says, what's the secret? What are publishers looking for? Is there such a thing, or do you think that there is that there are fashions, or do you think it's a gut feeling when you receive a manuscript? What is it that works for you? Why would you decide to publish something over something else?
For me, I think it's always about the voice. It's always about the voice of the manuscript. And maybe it's something that comes across your desk just when you're looking for that. So you might, it sounds ridiculous, but you might just have been thinking that you need to publish a dinosaur book, and a really well-written one comes across your desk. Or it could be that you are predicting there's going to be a trend in a certain direction. So, for example, at the moment, people are saying, paranormal is going to come back. It's had a lull.
You heard it right here.
Hey, I've just heard it. I'm not speaking to it. People are saying it peaked at Twilight. Then it went all dystopian with Hunger Games. Now paranormal is going to come back because teenagers love it. So you might have heard that, and then just that week an agent submits you a really fantastic paranormal novel by a really promising young local YA author, and you think, okay, I'll take a punt on that.
Yeah.
But really I'm responding to either a really original premise, so something that I think, I can see the gap in the market for that. I can see, for example, we don't have any really good contemporary fiction for 11 to 14-year-old boys, something like that. So it might just be responding to a niche, or it could be the actual writing itself is just so beautiful or powerful or compelling or just fresh that it makes you think, I've got to do this book. So it could, in a way it's the market, in a way it's your own taste and your own instinct, absolutely. Sometimes it's a combination, sometimes it's just zeitgeist. So it's sort of this, if we all knew the answer to what published, we'd all
everyone would be doing it.
Millionaire.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of different things all working at the same time. And I guess the longer you're in the industry, the more you see the waves of that, and you have experience and looking to overseas markets as well. So a bit of own learnings as well.
And it's never one person in a publishing house making a decision, is it? There's a lot of people that have to come on board.
Absolutely.
And they're the people that have to sell it, so it doesn't matter how much you love it. You've got to be able to convince someone around that acquisitions table that they're going to be able to sell it as well. Have there been things that you've brought that you've been passionate about and haven't managed to get over the line?
Yes. I'm thinking of one in particular, beautiful picture book that I just still think about, I still dream about, that basically the sales director didn't think it was a quiet book. You might often hear that a quiet book means it might be beautifully written or literary, but it just doesn't have that wide commercial appeal, and it would sell beautifully in a few small indie bookshops, but Kmart or Big W wouldn't pick it up, or those discount department stores where it's interesting, a lot of children's book sales are now coming through those channels as opposed to traditional bookshops. So that's really something we've got to keep in mind when publishing. And so unfortunately, often your beautiful, quiet indie books, they're the ones that you're not able to pick up. And that's sort of a heartbreaking trend, but I don't see it reversing anytime soon. And some publishers are fantastic at doing that, and big publishers can often think, we've got this best-selling series, so that kind of funds us to take a punt on this unknown person with a beautiful manuscript. But I work at a Firm Press, which is a really tiny publisher, and we don't yet have the backlist to kind of enable us to take as big a risks. Yeah, I would say.
But you still produce incredibly beautiful and very boutique-looking books, but with wide appeal. And that must be, I guess, because I imagine when you first started out in the industry, it felt like it was a little bit less precarious. And so people are still wanting something that's beautiful and unique and something that they can treasure, but that you can sell as well. Have you noticed changes since you first started out? in fact, I may as well just ask you straight out, what year did you start? You started in Penguin, I think.
I started
a while
at Penguin.
back.
Yep, I started at Penguin in 2008.
Yeah, so 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years in the industry. Makes me feel old.
And so in that time, have you seen changes?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I really do believe the market was bigger then. We had Borders and Angus and Robertson, which was that middle tier that you could really sell a lot of volume of books in. And I would say for the positive, picture books as beautiful objects have really had a real rise. And I feel like the appreciation for picture books as an art form and as a literary genre is really growing in my time.
Exciting.
Yeah. And I think that is actually a response to screens and just the kind of transitory experience of looking at things on screens versus the beautiful artistic object and holding it in your hand. So I think that is a positive trend. The negative trends, I think, are that people want things to be a surer bet before they sign them up. And that's led to a lot of celebrity publishing, some of which is fantastic and some of which is sort of cynical and not that particularly well done, but sells. And so that's sort of, people say, oh, don't worry, it's a different sector of the market. That's not going to cannibalize existing books by unknown authors who aren't celebrities. But I do feel like that sucks up the sales and marketing energy into those big celebrity books, and it does make it harder for your beautiful boutique picture book by a debut author to get traction.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a trend I've seen, and I feel like just a broader sense of caution in the market in general.
Yeah, interesting. And because you started out as an editor, and you and Jane Godwin were the two, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, who came up with the Our Australian Girl series. And is that what also branched you out into writing? Because you ended up writing one of the books. Did you think you were going to be a writer, or did you always think you were going to just work in the publishing industry?
That's an interesting question. So I moved to Melbourne to study the professional writing and editing course at RMIT. And I did that with a view to being a writer because I grew up in Perth. I had no idea what the publishing industry was. I didn't know that an editor was a job when I moved here. I didn't understand like the machinations of a publishing house. And I moved over to write a mystery novel set on a Jamaican rubber plantation. Which I never wrote because it soon became apparent to me that it was a very ill-conceived idea. But from that, I realised from doing that course, I started writing short stories that ended up getting published. And Jane Godwin, who was a publisher at Penguin, read those stories and said, oh, they both had child protagonists. And she said to me, oh, have you ever thought about writing for children? Because I can see you're really interested in the world of the child. So that happened on the one side. And then on the other side, I realised the nerd in me, the grammar, spelling, literary nerd in me who loved reading and had always loved books and ideas, really loved editorial and just thought, what a dream job. And that's the job for me. And as it goes on, even the things I do each day, like often making books, I'll print things out on the photocopier and to make a cover concept, I'll cut and literally sticky tape things together and make a craft version of a cover. And I think this is everything I loved doing when I was 8 years old. I was made for this job. And the collaboration I love that you don't get when you're a writer necessarily. And the idea,
quite nurturing too, I think, as the relationship with an editor.
And it nurturing, but then also it has, I suppose, similar to being a parent, it also has the fear of doing a bad job.
God, tell me about it. And so because you work as an editor with writers and you have to keep quite a keen eye on the market, what sells, because that's just part of your job, does that affect how you write, or do you ignore all of that and just write what you want to write?
It definitely has affected what I write. I feel like I almost write two streams. I have two speeds to my writing, and one is the very non-commercial, very quirky, very maybe more true to myself books like my YA novel that you mentioned, which is very strange and very non-commercial.
I've read it, and it was shortlisted or runner-up for the Text Prize, so that'll come out next year. Have you got a title for it yet?
I don't know if they're going to change the title. I submitted it as The End of the World is Bigger Than Love.
I can't wait to see it out there.
Well, that's
very kooky in the best possible way.
It's very odd and very non-commercial, and I clearly wasn't thinking about any market when I wrote that.
But it's got a Margot Lanigan feel to it, though, I have to say, because I think that there's something about it that feels really really exciting and unique and really pushing the boundaries of what you can do in writing. So I'm so thrilled that Text took it on, because I think they'll do a great job with that.
Oh, thank you, Sally. That's so kind. Well, I had the meeting with my editor there the other day, and she said, it's dark, it's complex, it's violent, and I don't want to change any of it. And I thought, that's, wow, someone who's not thinking. I love the fact that texts don't seem to be caring too much about what is going to land in the market, potentially. And so that's one kind of writing I do. And I feel like my books with Alison Colpoys are really about emotions. So I'm not thinking commercially.
I'm going to hold a couple up in case you don't know them. This was the first one you did with Alison? Oh, no, it was this one, wasn't it? So this one, absolutely gorgeous. This one book of the year?
It was I got an ARBIA award for the Small Publishers Picture Book of the Year, and Alison also won the Crichton Award for that as Best New Australian Illustrator. That was our first book.
And this is your next combo, which is also completely gorgeous. Also did beautifully.
Yeah, no, that people seem to love that one.
And this one is just going off all around the world. So you're about to head overseas to talk about this book to kids in the UK.
In the UK, and meeting different publishers at Bologna who picked it up as well. And
super exciting. Everyone loves it. I love this one too. And this is a beautiful example, I think, of something that's very boutique and very beautifully produced, but is sold everywhere from Readings to Kmart. So I think they've done a really great job.
Yeah, they've done such a fantastic job, because it's not, like I said, it's not a commercial book. I wrote it from a very emotional place. Whereas, for example, my books with Heidi Grant are much more commercial in nature, and I've got a few picture books coming out with them that feel different, like one's about tractors and one's about being a ballerina.
Nice. I didn't know that. This is also the one I do know about, though.
You do? Because it happened because of you.
Well, kind of. You took the idea and went with it. But this one, are we thinking of it as like a contemporary babysitter's club?
Yeah, I think so. That's how people seem to be responding to it.
And that's coming out in a couple of months?
In very end of April.
Yeah, so this one's super exciting. This is going to be a series of at least 4, I think.
Hopefully. And it's for 8 to 12-year-old girls.
And each book will be told through the eyes of one of the characters.
Yeah, different point of view.
Yeah. So that's quite a broad range, isn't it? And so do you find that different publishers can cope with different styles of writing from you? So text potentially doing a young adult, something a little bit dark and complex, suits one type of publishing house, and potentially another publishing house might be more interested in your more commercial, broader reach books.
Absolutely.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, people often ask me about being published by different publishers, and is it a good idea, and why do I do it? It doesn't make any sense. And to me, it's because I'm interested in writing for a broad range of age groups and different types of books. Each one just suits a different publisher. So, for example, my Lemonade Jones series of junior fiction is with Allen and Unwin, and that kind of more classic, beautiful package was something that they're interested in that I imagine Heidi Grant wouldn't be interested in. And the really high production values of the Scribble picture books with Alison, that's very design-led, and Scribble is a very design-led publisher. So I can't imagine that working in the same way at any other publisher. So I really do feel like, just because for whatever reason my writing has evolved in all these different directions, and I don't actually know why, I've been lucky that different publishers have responded to different parts of it. So I do think the upside of publishing with different publishers is that you can be more adventurous and go into different niches. The downside is people always say to me, it's like no one publisher owns you, and you might not get pushed forward for festivals as much or have as much marketing behind you. But I feel like I've been really lucky, and that hasn't been the case, and different opportunities have come with different publishers. So
if anything, it's just broadened your audience, really, hasn't it?
I hope so.
Well, because you can speak to littlies, and soon you'll be speaking to teenagers. Good luck with that.
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying. So if you were speaking to, how old were you when you came across from Perth to Melbourne?
It was 2005, so I was 23.
Okay, so you're watching your 23-year-old self get off the plane from Perth, about to start this course in writing.
God, wearing surf gear.
No way!
I think I was still wearing jeans and some kind of surf t-shirt.
Well, Melbourne's helped your fashion very much. What would you tell young Davina? So she's got her heart full of hope. She wants to be a writer. She doesn't really know anything about the publishing industry. What would you tell her? From where you sit now, 11 years on, having worked in the publishing industry, publishing with a whole lot of different publishers and all different styles of writing, what do you think young Davina needed to know?
I would say 2 things. I would say there is no substitute for the time spent in the chair at your computer writing. And I feel like as an emerging writer or a young writer, I spent so much time and energy wondering, like, would I ever get published, and what kind of book should I write, and could you be a writer? Just so much time on angst, basically, that I feel like if I'd spent that time working on my craft, I would be now a much better wrter than I am. So I would say,
God, you'd be amazing, be winning the Pulitzer or the Miles Franklin, whatever our equivalent is.
but I really do feel like, and I say this to young authors, often asking me, should I get an agent? Should I not get an agent? How should I approach Instagram, social media? And I think, yeah, that's all fine, but don't let that be where all your energy goes. Make that peripheral to the energy and the time and the focus and the fire that you put into just you and the page, you and the screen, you and the chair. So I would have said that to myself.
That's beautiful. So don't worry about the book, worry about the writer.
Yes, exactly.
Put your energy into writing.
Writing, yes. Yeah. And that will make you, if you are going to be a published author, that's what's going to make you a published author. It's not whether or not you have a really great Instagram account. Like that might help down the track potentially, maybe, but will it sell more books? Probably not. Will it get the attention of an editor? I'd say it's maybe a little different for illustrators because often as an editor, that's where I'm looking for new talent as illustrators. But as authors and as my own younger self, I would have said just more time in the chair.
And even the illustrators are putting the time in the chair, coming up with the illustrations anyway, aren't they?
Exactly.
So it's not like they're just trying to get stuff onto social media. They've got to
Exactly.
do the work.
They've got to do the work to put it on social media. Yeah. So I would say young illustrators out there, I would really encourage
Do the
you.
work. Yeah.
Do the work and then put it on Instagram. I'm looking.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would have said is that, like, if I look back now on what I thought my life would be, it is even more incredible than I ever imagined it could be. That you can't conceive of how it all might turn out, and it's so easy to assume the worst, and that you just kind of have to ignore all those critical voices in your head. Every time I sit down to write, I'm still ignoring those critical voices in my head. I still think what I write is going to be rubbish, but just to ignore that and keep going, because you can't actually imagine how beautiful and meaningful your life could turn out to be. So,
And are you proud of young Davina that she took that risk and continues to take the risk?
I feel like young Davina probably didn't realise quite what a risk she was taking, which is probably a good thing. Like, I had no concept of the stakes. I was such a babe in the woods, which in hindsight was probably protected me from the actual harsh realities. But also that you can't plan it. Like, all of the things in my life, meeting Alison at Penguin and making a partnership with her.
Meeting Jane Godwin,
who made me become a writer.
And this is the series that you worked on with Jane, wasn't it?
The Our Australian Girls series, the Alice books. And I still get beautiful letters and emails about those books, even though they were my first books and they've been out for a while now. So just that everything will happen from a happy accident, and you can't plan that or engineer that at all. Everything that has happened to me has been a beautiful, happy accident. But underlying that, I would say, I do work really hard. I am.
My God, you work hard. I can vouch for that.
I feel like Elizabeth Gilbert has a beautiful book, Big Magic, and she says the same thing. If you don't show up every day, inspiration's not. You've got to be there for inspiration to hit you. And I really, she talks about working on a Christmas tree farm and how that's such a good setup for the life of a writer, because it can be really monotonous and menial and boring. But if you're not there putting in the hours, just sitting at the computer, you won't be there for the incredible moment where it's almost as if you're not writing it, something is writing through you.
So it's less of taking a risk and more being open to opportunity.
Absolutely, and knowing that half the stuff you write is going to be terrible, and that you've got to do it anyway, and that's part of your journey and your path, and not everyone's going to love everything you write as well, I think is a really good lesson for a younger writer.
Well, I'm so glad you hopped on that plane.
In my surf t-shirt.
In your surf t-shirt. Because Melbourne is a better place with you here.
So thank you, Sally.
Thank you. You produce such beautiful work, and I get to work with you too. So,
well, one of the greatest joys of my life is working with you. So thank you.
Oh.
That was Davina Bell. Great chat, Sal. Thanks for that.
Yeah, good. It was good to catch up with her.
And this is her latest book, of course, All the Ways to be Smart. Well, in fact, that came out late last year. And it's been going through the roof, so make sure you check that out if that sounds like your sort of thing. And thanks again to Davina for having a chat with us on the Kidlit Club, which brings us to the end of another episode.
I know, they go so quickly.
They do. But we'll be back next time, and hopefully Oliver has a burger waiting for us somewhere, because earlier we were focusing on him a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I think I know what I'm having for dinner.
Yeah, I might join you. Okay, we'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye.